Well, good morning. Welcome back to the Broadcast Retirement Network. I'm Jeff Snyder. This is BRN AM for Wednesday, May 19th, 2021. And here is our top story, leadership lessons from the pandemic. Well, joining me now to discuss this and a lot more is Kevin Mcgarry. He's a doctoral candidate in professional coaching and leadership. Kevin, so great to see you. Thanks so much for joining us on the program this morning.
Jeff, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to chat a little bit about the research that I've conducted on leadership.
Well, Kevin, I want to start off with, I guess, kind of a basic question, and we'll get to the survey results in a few minutes, but let's talk about how do you define leadership? Because leadership, I think, means many things to many people.
I would agree. And with my leadership experience, and then based on the research that I've conducted around leadership, I've really effectively defined leadership as this, which is leadership is creating and communicating an effective vision that aligns with corporate objectives, but more importantly, empowers your team to accomplish more than they ever thought possible to accomplish for not only themselves, but their teams and society as a whole. So, and those three pieces are important. When I've looked at leadership and defining it, effective leadership really enables that leader to drive results for the corporation, for society, and for the follower or for those individuals that they're leading on a regular basis.
So Kevin, let's talk about this research that you've done. And I think what's really interesting about it is some of this took place during the pandemic. I think when you and I reconnected, you were kind of in the throes of doing this research. Tell us about the research. Who did you reach out to? Is it just corporate executives? Is it corporate executives in a specific segment of the economic segment, I should say?
Yeah. So I think if I look at the target audience that I surveyed, it was three different industries: financial services, legal, and accounting. And the reason behind those three is partly because my entire career has been in financial services, working with individual investors that are transitioning from accumulation to distribution. And at that point, that transition point, you need to have a financial advisor to put a financial plan together. You need a accountant to work through tax consequences. And you also need legal to put together a trust and estate work, and whether it's a power of attorney for health and finance. So those three industries are who I surveyed. And I looked at senior execs, CEOs, heads of distribution, presidents of businesses, and then also leaders of leaders to get their perspective on leadership, how they effectively lead, and their perspective of other leaders in the industry as well.
Kevin, obviously we have been through a tremendous amount of change over the last 14 months since the beginning of COVID. We've had obviously health issues and dealing with a pandemic and a health crisis, economic issues in terms of managing businesses, managing an economy that has had deleterious effects on individuals. How has leadership evolved? Or when you kind of take a step back and you look at, interacting with these senior executives in the financial services world and beyond, how has leadership changed or evolved?
If you look at leadership, I think it's also important to understand what the behaviors and characteristics are of effective leaders based on these senior executives across three different industries. And if you look at their view, it's changed to some extent, but you got to baseline it in the characteristics of what the survey is that I conducted shows that effective leaders are honest, they have integrity, they're approachable, they're selfless, they're trustworthy. They really focus on inspiring a vision and a mission for the business. And most importantly, they're an effective communicator. Now, given that of what an effective leader pre-pandemic is, I also surveyed those same individuals to say post-pandemic, what are the behaviors? What does it look like to be an effective leader? And resilience came to the top of the chart. Resilience, empathy, compassion, adaptability, and then the one common denominator was communication. Communication is paramount, especially in the work and home environment, and being able to make sure that you're communicating the vision and what needs to be accomplished on a regular basis.
I mean, communication is to me, it's the most important aspect of any type of relationship, whether it's a personal relationship or a work relationship. Now that things are reopening, I live in North Carolina. I think you know, and the audience knows, we relocated here. Things are beginning to open up. What opportunities present themselves with this reopening? Thinking about people maybe returning to the office in some way, shape, or form, whether it's the hybrid model where you're in the office some days, where you're working remotely some days. But what leadership opportunities are presenting themselves now?
And I'm going to base this on a quote that I just recently saw from Jamie Dimon. You might have seen this. He said, work from home doesn't work for young people. It doesn't work for those who want to hustle. And it doesn't work for spontaneous idea generation. Kind of interesting. So he just recently said that, I believe it was about a week or so ago. But it really aligns to what I'm seeing out there talking to leaders in the marketplace. There's three major challenges in the environment we're in today. Working from home versus working in the office. It causes challenges with innovation, challenges with the culture of the organization, and then also retention. So those are the three kind of challenges that leaders face. But on the flip side, the benefit that the employees have is now this work-life balance and the flexibility that they never had before. The connectivity with family, with friends, lack of a commute is really been attractive for so many individual employees that they want to stay. Many want to stay working from home, but from a corporation standpoint, there are benefits to getting people back to the office. So I do see kind of this hybrid approach of, a couple days at home, couple days in the office, to be able to manage both individual expectations of employees plus the opportunity for growth and innovation within an organization as well.
Yeah. Well, Kevin, I want to take a very quick break. When we come back, we'll talk to Kevin some more about some corporate lessons learned during the pandemic. You're going to want to stay tuned right here on BRN AM. Imagine a new television network that will make you richer, healthier, and in control of your financial future. This network is for the policewoman in Nashville, Tennessee, the baker in Dubuque, Iowa, the teacher in Lexington, Kentucky. We want to make the idea of savings and retirement culturally relevant. But what do you see as a defining issue of the midterms, especially for the smaller businesses? I mean, they are the lifeblood of the American economy. Featuring exclusive interviews, current affairs, and docuseries. 33 years old, you retired early.
The philosophy is money only matters if it helps you live a life that you love.
But you got to start thinking about retirement as soon as you get in.
The Broadcast Retirement Network will drive very high engagement with premium partnerships. So this isn't retirement and savings for your parents or grandparents. This is for all Americans. And we're going to change the way you think about money. Welcome to the next frontier of retirement and savings. This is BRN, the Broadcast Retirement Network.
Are you stuck with a low credit score? A credit report and score that's causing you to be denied credit or pay higher interest rates than others for the same things? Then do what Terrence did and call Credit Repaired for your free credit evaluation to help restore your credit.
I started thinking about buying a new house, and my score wasn't where I needed it to be. I called and spoke with one of the representatives, and we just had a good conversation, and I liked what he was saying.
Just one call for his free credit evaluation was all it took to start back on the track to repairing his credit.
I'm seeing the deletions and I'm getting the report, so I know something's being done. It does make a difference to me.
All it takes is one call to get started.
Credit Repair has given me a second chance to have a better credit score.
Don't let a low credit score hold you back another day. Do what Terrence did and make the call for your free credit evaluation.
Call 800-819-4152. That's 800-819-4152. Again, 800-819-4152.
Welcome back. We're talking to Kevin Mcgarry. He's a doctoral candidate in professional coaching and leadership. Kevin, thanks for staying with us this morning.
I really appreciate it.
Yeah, this is a great conversation, and I guess it kind of begs a question. And we talked about lessons and areas of improvement in terms of leadership, but let's talk about the actual cost, both explicit and implicit, of poor leadership, because I think we're not going to give real examples, but there are some examples like we can certainly cite in terms of maybe some poor leadership during this pandemic. But this has some real cost to an organization, whether it's government, whether it's a corporation.
Yeah, very true. And what you've seen through the pandemic, and then obviously through your career over time as well, when you have a poor leader, there's a significant impact to an organization, whether that's through morale, through profitability, or through retention. And what the research that I've conducted looks at is not only the retention risk, but the actual quantifiable dollar and cents risk to an organization to putting a poor leader in place, or more importantly, to keeping a poor leader in their position over the long term. Those dollars and cents, what they look like from a sales standpoint, it can cost up to 7% of total annual sales year over year by having an ineffective or poor leader in place. To the average corporation, it can rack up over $1 million in cost to the average corporation from retention issues, productivity, and client satisfaction. So there is a significant need to really continue training leaders, but making sure leaders understand what they're doing, how they're communicating with their individuals, and how they motivate their teams to be more effective into the future as well.
Well, Kevin, what I hear you kind of describing, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but I'm kind of paraphrasing here, morale. And to me, morale translates into a corporate culture. A corporate culture is important for retention, but also attraction of new employees. And how your employees respond to certain leadership styles has a direct impact on how they service clients, how they service the community.
100% agree. And the research that I conducted mid-pandemic, looking at top 10 asset managers and annuity carriers at their top sales professionals. So I looked at the top 25 sales professionals of asset managers and annuity companies and said, why do you stay at your current organization? What causes you to continue to work there versus looking for a new opportunity? Number one is trust in your current leader and senior leadership. Number two is corporate culture. And so trust and corporate culture are imperative to increase retention rates within an organization. But then if you look at the research that I'm doing now, looking at senior leaders, corporate culture and their beliefs and what they look at as an effective leadership standpoint that drive corporate culture come around communication, comes around setting the right vision, the right strategy. And most importantly, it's about accountability. And what I'm hearing from leaders is not only holding their teams accountable, but holding themselves accountable. And most importantly, taking responsibility for things that aren't going appropriately. Having that communication of what happened, why did it happen, what are we going to do about it? And that personal accountability at the leadership level creates that many organizations are looking for at all levels of accountability and the ability to accomplish their overall objectives.
Kevin, let's talk about leadership and leadership styles, because I feel like that's an area, just based on your research, where there's this evolution. And so, maybe pre-COVID, there was much more of a top-down approach to leadership where, the CEO, he or she really drives everything. But I think what we've learned, maybe through experience, maybe through some of the experience of this pandemic, is that the circumstances may dictate the leader and the leadership style. And as you seem to be indicating, it's about trustworthiness and ethics. That really has taken more of front and center. And how you conduct yourself is as important as conducting yourself.
It's very true. And what's interesting is through the doctorate work I've done, there's literally numerous different leadership theories and philosophies. kind of the most prominent ones that most people have either seen or taken a course on are situational leadership, authentic leadership, servant leadership, transformational leadership. Those are kind of the four kind of key, most popular leadership styles that are out there today. What I see is each one of those has its benefits, but there's also, where does leadership need to evolve into the future? And that's where I believe the research that I'm conducting will create a new leadership philosophy dedicated to, with a more focus on the follower, with a more emphasis on integrity, compassion, sustainability, to be able to focus not only that vision in the strategy for the future, but to be able to encourage and help folks to really embrace what the company is doing and what the actual purpose of the organization is. Part of that is driven by the work that I've seen in the millennial generation. And you may be aware that by 2025, 75% of the world's population will be millennials. One of their key aspects of coming to work is to have a purpose. And they want to have a purpose. They want to be able to have work-life balance. They want to be able to have an impact on society. And so as a leader, we need to kind of bring all those pieces together to really embrace a new leadership style that's focused on the follower to accomplish and help build them to be better leaders in the future as well.
And to that end, I guess last question. I mean, you're really going to see intergenerational workforces. Someone of our age. I think you and I are around the same age, maybe a little bit more towards middle age. Now you've got Gen Xers, you've got who we are, then you've got millennials, and you've got Gen Z, and it's adapting to the corporate culture, adapting the leadership style to those different segments of the population. I mean, that is really going to be key. How do you meld that all together so that you have cohesive work groups and ultimately deliver and execute on behalf of clients, but also keep this coalition of people together who will have varying interests?
Yeah, and to talk to that, my research is still underway, right? I've done one bit of research talking to senior executives across those three industries. The second component of research is coming in June, and that is really addresses what your question is. It's looking at the generations of baby boomers, Gen X, and millennials, understanding what are their expectations through quantitative research of how they want to be led. And that together will actually bring together my thesis of what the evolution and what the final framework for leadership should look like post-pandemic and into the future. So really looking forward to getting the results of that quantitative survey probably in June, July, and being able to share that at that point in time as well.
Yeah, and I think that'd be great. We're definitely going to have you back talking about that. And as my wife reminds me, it's always important to have your listening ears on. And it sounds like that is a big, big part of leadership going forward. Well, Kevin Mcgarry, it is a pleasure as always to talk to you. Thanks so much for joining us, and we look forward to having you back on the program again very soon.
Thank you very much. I appreciate it.
That wraps up this episode of BRN AM. Have a topic of interest, someone you think we should talk to, then drop us a line. And don't forget, for all the information in retirement markets, technology, personal finance, so much more, all in one place, check out today's edition of our daily newsletter, The Morning Pulse. We're back again tomorrow for another exciting, entertaining, and educational BRN AM. Until then, I'm Jeff Snyder. Stay safe, keep on saving, and don't forget, roll with the changes.
Are you being audited and do you owe the IRS $10,000 or more in back taxes? Is the IRS threatening to take more of your money? Don't fight the IRS alone. The Tax Doctor is here to help you negotiate your tax bill and reduce your stress. The IRS can freeze your assets and seize your bank accounts, but you can stop these IRS actions. The Tax Doctor will work with you using our years of experience to represent your case to help you get the best resolution under the IRS guidelines. Help is here to deal with the IRS to reduce your stress. We've handled thousands of cases, so we know what we're doing. If you owe $10,000 or more in back taxes, do not call the IRS alone. Call a tax doctor now for a tax emergency analysis.
Call 800-224-6439.